Hi, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Norma Paez. I'm the marketing coordinator at the European Forensic Institute. I'm happy to welcome you in our Meet the Experts session. Thank you so much for being part of this Meet the Experts, the human factor in criminal analysis. I would like to extend our gratitude, of course, with our guest expert, Ricardo Pipa, who is also member of the EACA, the European Association of Crime Analysts, who will share his expertise with us today. Of course, welcome to Sam, the director of the European Association of Crime Analysis, EACA. I would like to thank you to all of you to be here with us, our students that of course, looking the names, I'm seeing that there are some here, so we are happy to have you here today. In the end of the webinar, we will have a session for the Q&A. So please, if you have some questions, please write in the Q&A section. So to start, I would like to have or to take a minute to present what is the Meet the Expert sessions. Meet the Experts is a series of webinars that we do in association with the EACA to generate these spaces, new knowledge for our students, for our community, like this Meet the Expert that will be very, very interesting. We already saw some things that Ricardo shared with us. I would like also to take a moment to introduce you with the European Forensic Institute. We offer bachelor's and master programs in the field of forensic science, criminology, criminalistic, investigation. So if you want to check some more information about our programs, if you are interested in, so please write us an email. We will reply to you with all the information. We have opened our inscriptions for the academic year 25-26. So we will start in October with the bachelor's and in November for our master. So I would like to say to you, hello here in our institution. So thank you so much. I would like to hand over to Sam, the director of the EACA.
Thank you so much, Norma, for the warm welcome. And I would also like to express my deepest gratitude for all the people who are joining us. Listen to our really, really great expert, Ricardo Pipa, which is not only an expert, it's also, I can call him a good friend. And I know about his expertise, and I'm pretty sure it will be an outstanding presentation. Thank you, Ricardo, for taking the time to present it to our members and students. And let me point out that Ricardo is not only an expert, he's also the head of the Portuguese delegation of the EACA, which I'm very proud about that I could get this great expert to help us out in reaching out to the Portuguese members. So if there are any specific question from any Portuguese member, please contact Ricardo directly. I'm pretty sure he will be happy to help out. But now I don't want to waste your time longer, and I will give the floor to my friend Ricardo. Ricardo, the floor is yours.
Sam, thank you so much for that great presentation. Actually, you kind of raised the bar so much that I hope I can meet those requirements. Okay, so to start with, I want to thank you everyone for being here. I hope you enjoy this session. It will be a short session or as big a session as you make it happen, because I'd like this to be as interactive as possible. Okay, and this comes to, although we don't have voice available from your side, feel free to post any questions, feel free to go to the chat window, feel free to raise any questions. To actually myself, I'll be asking you some questions also and try to get the feeling of that of what you're thinking about the concepts that I'm sharing with you. Okay, because in the end we are all awesome professionals. We are very good at what we do, but then there's another dimension that actually creates a difference in the outcomes that we get, not only out of a specific project, but out of life in general. Okay. And this has to do with the way we interact with other people. So this presentation, this Meet the Experts, actually is it's about that. It's to make us all think about how our life could improve if we paid more attention to the way that we relate to other people, because we have examples of this as we do our daily life. Okay, so most of the times, a lot of times, we're talking to other people, and the people are not actually understanding what we're trying to say. Okay, this is something that happens sometimes frequently. Okay, if not, that is great. But we have, and being a part of an organization or being a crime analyst or whatever we do in life, it's the most important part is how we relate to other people. How do teams work together? How do we handle the overload that we have? How do we handle the ability to deliver whatever is our project or is requested of you? So if you've been through any of these situations, then definitely this is the place for you to be during this half an hour, whatever time it takes. Okay, so I'm sure we'll be home for dinner way before. Okay, so today the subject is very specific. It's the human factor in criminal analysis. Okay, because it's not just about the outcome that you get as you do your work. It's about your ability to transmit whatever findings you have, whatever conclusions you've reached, and make sure that you not only understand what other people are saying, but also be understood. Okay, because in the end, it's about that. A special thanks to for the invitation. Okay, I can't let this go. Again, it's a pleasure to be here and to have received this invitation from the European Forensics Institute and from the European Association of Crime Analysts, okay, which Sam has mentioned, I'm a part of, and the Portuguese representative for the European Association of Crime Analysts, which is an honor to me in the sense that allows me to contribute and to participate and have an active role in making sure that this role that exists actually is able to improve, is able to make it stand, and and is able to create differences in the way crime is addressed in general. Okay, so coming back to the subject at hand. Okay, so it's not about being good. Okay, because as I said, we're all good, but it's about being able to communicate whatever we find into our boss, into the person responsible for the project, in person responsible for the analysis in the end. Okay, and it's there that sometimes, and I hope it's just sometimes, but unfortunately, this happens a lot. Communication fails. Okay, and fails because of what? Because of assumptions. Okay, and what are assumptions? Look, we are people. Okay, and we have been kind of customized to look at the world in our own specific way. Okay, so everything contributes to what we are today, and this leads to our knowledge, the way we were brought up, religion, culture, where we are in the world, everything that is around us actually creates a filter through which we see the world. Okay, and this filter actually creates this way, which creates a perception. So every one of us, each one of us actually looks at the world in a different way. Okay, so when we try to communicate, when we're trying to communicate, it's more than natural, okay, because again, we are humans, it's more than natural for us to bring the way we express ourselves, bring through that lens through which we see the world. And this is our daily experience. This is our what happens on a daily basis. whenever we try to convey an image, convey an idea, convey an outcome to someone with whom we are working with, or we are actually interacting with. Okay, so these filters are very strong. And most of the communications, as I said earlier, fails because of assumptions, okay? Because of this filter. This filter makes us see the world in a very specific way, our way, okay? And if it's our way, then it's obvious for us, okay? Did you ever think about this? Okay, did you ever realize, did you ever go through experiences where you try to convey an idea and you kind of get a barrier on the other side, you get an objection, okay? People are really not into understanding what you're trying to say, okay? Because when we're talking with people who are like this, what we find is that I'd say three things, okay? First, they tend to make statements. They don't ask questions, okay? So they make statements. They say, because they are very sure of what they are trying to convey, okay? They are absolutely sure. For all purposes, it's like it's the truth to them, okay? So they are very sure of that. So they don't ask questions. They don't, there's no concern, there's no way in trying to get your feedback on what you think about this. And this comes from the fact that, remember, each one of us looks at the world through its own specific lens, okay? So statements and confirmation questions, okay? Closed question like, I'm right, right? Or the sky is blue, right? Or the outcome is this. I made that analysis and the result is this. Okay, so there's no room for doubt. There's no room for conversations. And this tends to break communications. Why? Because you have your own filter, the other person has its own filter, and you're kind of struggling against each other, trying to impose your ideas, what each one of you thinks about that specific subject. And it will continue to be like this, okay, until at least one of you changes, okay, and changes the mindset and tries to understand why the other person is thinking like this. It might seem, oh, we need to make this happen. In the end, yes, but you can take lead, okay? And this, Meet the Expert is about that. It's about how you can take lead, how you can take, I'm going to say control, okay, in the sense that you are aware of how people interact, and because of that you are able to try to better understand what the person on the other side is thinking, why she is thinking about a specific way, why is she saying something very specific. And this allows you to not only understand but also try to change the perception of the other person related to what you're saying. Okay, so it's no longer about the other person only, it's also about yourself. Okay, sometimes it's easy, sometimes not that easy. Okay, because in the end, we're talking about effective communication, we're talking about communication between two people. Okay, so in the end, yes, one needs to take lead, and you can take lead in that because now you are already aware of how we usually communicate with other people, but in the end the other person needs to be available. But in the end, look, you did your best, okay, and this is what actually happens. So but when we look at this communication breakdown and this fact that people tend to stuck to their specific positions and are not available to listen to the other person, okay, to really listen to the other person, this leads to several consequences. I'm going to call them consequences. One of them is conflict, okay? Actually, I would say silent conflict. Why? Because, and we see this happen in a lot of organizations, more in organizations, in teams, which is people tend to not be upfront. People tend to go behind the back, okay, and start bad mouthing other people. Okay, so in the end, this creates kind of a working environment which is not the best to work with. Okay, I'm sure that you've also seen this happen, and this is actually, this most of the times, or some of the times, leads to a point where you start getting a bad relationship between people, because everything is being said in the back, and if it's not being said, actually it's being written on an email. Okay, and you start, I don't know if this happens with you. You're trying to say something to someone which actually it's not paying attention, and the other person grabs and writes you an email, but when it writes the email, actually is already copying someone else. Okay, and then you start exchanging emails, and you starting pushing the subject from one side to the other side, and you keep adding more people and copying more people, and all of a sudden everyone is within that email. Okay, and it's just a bad exchange that actually is happening there, which leads to waste of time, which leads to waste of energy, which leads to not the best working environment for anyone to be. Okay, so addressing this becomes important. Actually, not allowing this to start becomes important, and this is something that which is where there is a strong cultural relationship with it, which is in some cultures people confront more. Okay, and in other cultures people don't confront so much. Okay, but confrontation is much better than conflict. Okay, in the sense that you can be upfront, you can go to the other person and you can say, look, this is happening, I'm not feeling very happy with this happening like this, so let's sit down, let's have a conversation, let's understand, let's agree on this subject, and let's make this happen, and let's make this move forward without being exchanging mails here and there. And most of the times this works. Okay, why? Because you were upfront enough to go to the person and say, look, we have this problem, we need to solve this, let's talk. Okay, and then when you talk, if you want to, and if you agree on that, okay, once you've had this meeting, once you had this conversation, you can drop an email. Okay, just out of clarity, to make sure that everyone is in sync, and you have a written record of actually what was that conversation, and how it was solved. Okay, so healthy confrontation actually brings clarity, it improves relationships, because if you don't confront, then you go into conflict. Okay, silent conflict, which is the worst kind of conflict. Okay, because actually what you're saying is you're bad mouthing, or someone is bad mouthing you and thinking that you're not gonna know. And we know, we always know. Okay, because it goes through the circle and eventually it reaches us back, and we are aware that that person told me something in my face, and then went behind my back and said something completely different. Okay, and this is not good, as I said. Okay, now if you're in conflict, okay, so most likely if something does not go as it should, we get into this situation where people start pointing fingers. Okay, and pointing fingers about blame does not solve problems. Okay, responsibility talks and moves forward. Responsibility, actually, if you look into this word, it's the adding of two words: response and ability. Okay, so responsibility is actually you having the ability to respond. Okay, which has several sides to it. Okay, one is, if you took the responsibility, then you have the duty, I'm going to call duty, to deliver whatever has been asked from you. But if you don't have the ability to deliver that, then you should go back to the person that told you, oh, you need to do this. Okay, and go back and say, no, I don't know how to do this. You have to teach me. I have to learn how to do this task in order to be able to complete that. And when I know how to do the task, then I can take the responsibility to deliver. I think this makes sense. Okay, what do you think? Yeah. And it's this, look, if we're connecting the fact that we don't have an effective communication which could lead to conflict, which could lead to blame, to pointing fingers, okay? But which could lead to another thing, which is working, 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 in the end, without knowing what for, okay? So, and in here, we're talking about efficiency, and efficiency is doing whatever you need to do with the least amount of resources, okay, against effectiveness, which is actually delivering, okay? So, but if I asked you, okay, and I'm raising all these questions in a way to get your feedback and to get you to think about these things, okay? So as I said, this Meet the Expert is about raising awareness, yeah? So if you're, what is more important, being efficient or being effective, okay? Because you can be so efficient, you can be so concerned and so focused and using the least amount of resources like time, like money, like computer resources, like lab resources, that you don't actually deliver what you're supposed to deliver. And efficiency only makes sense if you deliver. Okay, first you need to deliver, and then you should be concerned about delivering it with the least amount of resources. But I've seen a lot of situations where people are so focused in being so efficient that actually they forget what they are working for. Yeah, so efficiency without effectiveness, which leads to another thing. Okay, so as you can see, we kind of get a chain here. This chain started with communication being not that effective, yeah, which could lead again to confrontation, should lead to confrontation, okay, which should lead to responsibility, which should lead to effectiveness, okay, because in the end it's about effectiveness. But if you're putting a lot of work, if you get a lot of stuff to do, if you're under pressure, then you start, or you take the chance of starting to lose motivation, okay, which is the motive that makes you take action. Yeah, so motivation is not about, oh, I want to be #1 crime analyst in the world, okay, that would take, that kind of goal would kind of be hard to be motivated all the time, okay. But if you grab that as a final goal and you kind of slice it into smaller goals, smaller objectives, then you eventually will get there, okay? Because you'll be looking at your next step. Okay, it's like I use this figure of speech, which is, it's like you're trying to build an elephant, okay? And if you build an elephant, you're most likely going to give up. This happens to me. Look, I can give you my personal example. Like sometimes, actually more times than I would like to, I get this situation in which I have a lot of small things to do, but really a lot of small things to do. And what happens to me is kind of, I don't feel that motivated to pick up on that. You know why? Because when I look at it, it looks like it's so many things to do. Okay, it's really so many things to do that I don't know where to pick up. Okay, I don't know where I should start. And if I'm not paying attention, because it happens to me also, okay, what happens is that I kind of stay there instead of picking up and start doing things. The moment I realize this, it's the moment that I sit and I prioritize and I start doing it, okay, being effective at the same time as I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, okay, because time is limited. And all of a sudden, everything, that big elephant that was in front of me, kind of just fades away because I do everything that I need to do. And in the end, when I look back, I realized that actually there wasn't that many tasks that I needed to do, or I wouldn't need that much time to do the tasks that I needed to do. Okay, so it's very easy to lose motivation when you have a big goal in front of you. Okay, so again, when I pick up, look, we started again with miscommunications, confrontation, which is where it should go, responsibility, which is how things should be handled, trying to reach and to deliver, which goes into effectiveness, and then make sure that as we're doing this, as we have a lot of tasks that we're actually doing or need to do, we're able to prioritize this and we're able to deliver all of them. Okay, sometimes you need more work, sometimes it's a lot of tasks. Okay, but when you look and you plan before you do, things actually become much easier for you to make it happen. Okay, because if you don't, then you get into a situation where you get stressed. Okay, it's very easy to get stressed. Actually, there is a lot of information about stress. Okay, stress in itself is a biological mechanism that makes us be ready. Okay, makes our body be ready to face any danger that may come our way. Okay, and it was the most effective mechanism that we had back then when we had to run away from predators like saber-tooth tigers and all those kinds of animals that existed in prehistory, okay, or in very ancient times. So, but the mechanism is still here. Okay, today our body and our biology is not adapted to the real world as we know it today. Okay, so anything that just goes out of the way, we will perceive this as a menace, and we'll kick in the stress mechanism within our work. And one of the things within our body, sorry. And one of the things that actually makes this happen is expectations. Okay, what is our expectation? What are we looking for? What do you think is going to happen? What do you want to happen? Which takes us back into assumptions, which takes us back into perception, which takes us back into the way we see the world around us through this lens that I've mentioned in the beginning. Okay, so the difference between what we want to happen and how it actually happens, okay, often clashes within us, and this leads to stress. Okay, stress, which leads to frustration, which leads to paralysis. I gave you an example in my previous slide. And obviously, it's very easy. Remember that when in those days where we had the saber-tooth tigers, when stress kicked in, we would go into this fight or flight solution. Either we would just run away, okay, or we would fight, or there would be a third one, which is would kind of be there, which would be for us to be very quiet, very still, and hope that the danger would go by without noticing us. Okay, and this is kind of what happens in this paralysis. So you get into a stress situation. We have a lot of stuff to do. Okay, we're doing a crime analysis with our partner, and our partner just is not listening to me. I've discovered something important. He already made his assumptions or her assumptions, and is trying to push that way, and is not listening to us. What will this trigger to us? Possibly stress. Okay, along with which raises a challenge for our ability to confront. Okay, and all the other things that actually circle around this into kind of challenging our work environment, our learning environment, our family environment. Okay, in the end, one of the most important things that we need to be aware is that we see the world in our own specific way. Okay, so how can you change this? Okay, because this Meet the Expert is also about that. Okay, how can you change this? You can improve the way you communicate. Definitely, in this presentation that I'm sharing with you, okay, this is kind of root cause, okay, because the effective way for you to communicate is not just knowing what to ask, but it's knowing how to ask. Because in the end, we have three types of questions that you can ask. Okay, you have closed questions, you have alternate questions, and you have open-ended questions. Okay, so it's a mix between these three questions that allow you to understand how effectively the person on the other side is thinking about a specific subject. Okay, and then, because this is off the equation, okay, if you ask the question, hold on, why did you ask the question? You had a reason to ask the question. Listen to the answer. Okay, when I say to listen to the answer, is listen carefully to the answer. Okay, because it's not most of the times, or sometimes the person is replying to us and we're not actually listening to what the person is trying to say. Okay, we're already thinking about how we're going to answer. We're going to think about how we're going to what we're going to say next, and it's not about that. Okay, that's not listening, that's just hearing. Okay, so if I could make the distinction here. Okay, so listen, more than listen, listen carefully. Listen to the end. Listen everything that the person has to say. If you're really listening to the person, you'll try to understand and you'll try to see the filter that lens through which the person which is talking with you is actually showing. Okay, it's the way the person had. You have to understand and to realize what filter the person actually has when he's talking to you about a specific subject. Okay, these filters are obviously very important. Be more upfront. Okay, confrontation is much better than conflict. Yeah, it's much better to go to the other person and say, look, we have this problem, let's sort this out. Okay, let's try to agree on something, let's try to understand what is happening here, go into this conversation. Okay, which will have obviously questions, and for each question there will be at least one answer. Okay, so try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. This will help you understand how the other person thinks. If you understand how the other person thinks, it's easier for you to reach out to that person and make her think in a similar way as you think, or at least be able for that help that person understand why you're saying what you're saying. Why do you believe that your answer, your point of view is important also to understand? Try not to be imposing each other's points of view. Take responsibility. Okay, and if you don't have the ability to respond, make sure you do not take the responsibility. Okay, you can only take a responsibility if you have the ability to deliver what is being asked of you. Okay, and define goals better. Okay, when I say, I could call it goals, I could call it objectives. In English, they kind of mix the definition of these. Okay, what you're trying to reach. There are a lot of different ways you can set up your goals. There are a lot of philosophies or ways you can do this. Okay, I have my own. We can talk about this, and but no matter, you find whatever works best for you. Okay, define goals better. Make sure that you slice that elephant into smaller chunks. Look for the next chunk. It's like you're in a race. Okay, it's like you are in a 100 meter hurdle race. Okay, you look at the floor, you're doing whatever you're doing at this time, and from time to time you race your head to see where the next hurdle is. Okay, and then you overcome that one. Okay, so this slice of the goal has been reached, so let's go, let's continue to work, let's continue to make this happen until you reach the last one. Okay, and then you have reached your goal. Okay, so not everyone communicates well under pressure. Okay, this is normal. Sometimes, or sometimes not even when we're not under pressure, but under pressure it becomes more challenging. Yeah, you can be the exception here. Okay, because the exclusive training that we have set up has this goal to allow you to read whatever is around you, okay? To read the people that are around you, understand the context of the conversation that you're having, and naturally be more precise and allow you to communicate more effectively with other people. Because as I said, this is not about technical competence. This is not about technical expertise. This is about your ability to effectively transmit what you found out, either to your colleague, either to the person responsible for the department. And remember, okay, because, and this is very important, because your crime analysts, okay, are or to be crime analysts. So there's a side here which the output or the outcome of what you do, okay, technically, and in communicating with other people, actually has a real influence on other people's lives. Okay, so there actually is a responsibility that you inherit, not only because you have the ability to do the technical parts. Okay, so I would strongly recommend that you also get the ability on the communication part, because as I said, what you actually do impacts people's lives. Okay, and this is positively and negatively. Okay, and this is very important. This is a very big responsibility for anyone to take. So if you want to know more about this subject, okay, if you're considering enrolling a training on, about these subjects, or if you just want to know more, reach out to me. Okay, you have my email and my phone number. Okay, I'm on WhatsApp also, so if it's easier for you, feel free. You also have Norma and the European Forensics Institute, and obviously, I'm sure that through the European Association for Crime Analysts, you'll be able to get some additional information. So, and before going to Q&A, okay, in analysis, facts reveal, but only communication transforms. Okay, I think it's a great sentence to complete this Meet the Experts. Okay, I hope this was useful for you. Looking forward for your feedback. I'm gonna go to the Q&A. But before that, obviously, thanks again, Sam, as president of the European Association for Crime Analysts. A pleasure to work with you and an honor to represent the European Association in Portugal. Available for anyone who wants to talk about this subject also, and obviously to the European Forensic Institute for sharing and for inviting me to be here with you for these 40 minutes, 45 minutes to talk about this. And we have a question from Evelyn. Thank you, Evelyn, for your question. So the question is, hi, Ricardo, my name is Evelyn. I love the presentation and I have a question. What truly is confrontation? I didn't quite catch the meaning. How can we put it into practice? Okay, cool. That's a great question, Evelyn. If you want to get the full details and how to fully address this, because there's more to it than just conflict and confrontation, okay, what I would say is confrontation, to me, confrontation is the ability to clarify whatever is not right between two people, okay? Being, and this is the difference, being upfront. What does it mean to be upfront? Upfront means having the difficulty to go to the other person and just open dialogue. And this could be as simple as, look, Sam, can I use your name?
Of course you can.
Okay. Look, Sam, you and I were having this problem regarding this project, and I think that it's best that we talk between ourselves. Let's meet, let's talk about this, let's handle these differences and see if we can agree on the best option to deliver this outcome. Because this is a very important crime which is happening. There's a lot of publicity around this. You and I clearly have a difference of opinion about it, about what the evidence is showing. So let's sit together and let's talk about this. What do you think, Sam?
Yes, that sounds great.
Cool. So, Evelyn, as you can see, much better than dropping an email to our boss. Imagine that me and Sam were crime analysts. Much better than me dropping an email to our boss and copying Sam, or not even copying Sam, and saying, "Oh, look, I think that on this project, my opinion is blah 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 blah." Okay, and if I didn't copy Sam, I'm trying to influence our team leads instead of actually addressing the situation directly. Sam would event, because I would say, most likely, I would say this to someone, or what would happen is that our team lead would go back to Sam and would say, "Hey, Sam, I got a mail from Ricardo saying this, blah, 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 blah." And Sam would say, "No, I don't agree with that." And then we're kind of creating stress between me and Sam as team colleagues. Okay, and these things stick. Actually, they grow. Okay, because I do this once and Sam starts looking me on the side. Okay, and I keep doing this, and Sam most likely will either he is able to be confrontational and he comes back to me, and again we go in and triggers this conversation, or we'll just be bad mouthing each other and actually generating conflict. Okay, and conflict tends to poison teams. Okay, and then teams become dysfunctional, not because they are not good at what they do, but because they are not able, because they are always stabbing everyone else is stabbing each other in the back, instead of actually solving the problem and being confrontational instead of generating conflict. So, Evelyn, let me know if I was able to clearly answer your question. Yeah. So,
Ricardo, before
yeah,
you move on, I want to add something. It's not only a question, it's also evidence that you're absolutely right, because I'm not only the president, I'm also the team leader of a team of 6 analysts. And in the back times, I was running into similar issues many times, and myself was more than pissed on when something happened I didn't know, and I didn't have the opportunity to discuss that before. So that happens if you don't work in a better way. Unfortunately, I'm not always able to run it in the best positive way. Sometimes you're not on duty, and someone else has to make the decisions, and then you come back as the team leader and you stay there and see that something was going on without asking you. And it was a regular job, but you feel pissed on, as you can imagine, and then you feel bad, and maybe then you say something wrong. So also, I think you should learn to handle this type of situations. And do you have any recommendations how you can work on that situations?
definitely. Okay. And to me, you still go into the same formula, which has there's something which is important to be aware of. Okay. First, most important, you need to be able to be confrontational. Okay. Which means be upfront with the person, handle the person. Okay. I can't even imagine, Sam, you as team lead of a team of crime analysts, how stressful this could be for you as a team lead, also in having to handle all these politics, all these dynamics inside the team. Okay, so it's not stressful just for the person which actually is triggering this process, but actually it's stressful for everyone which is a part of the team. So I really thank you for the feedback that you just gave. Okay, to me there's another thing which is important, which is it's important not to point fingers. Okay, so coming back to our example, I won't go back to you and say, point the finger at you and say, Sam, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing that, I don't like that, so let's talk about this. Because I'm sure that when I did it, if I did it this way, the last thing that you would want to do is have a conversation with me. Look, this guy Ricardo is coming to me, he's full of himself, and he's just pointing the finger and me and I me. No, it's not about that. Okay, it's not about that. It's about expressing how you feel. So it would be much interesting, or the outcome would be much better if I went back to you, Sam, and said, Sam, we're going through this situation. I do not feel comfortable about this. I think we should talk about this. Are you available to talk about this? Okay. Asking the question is important because you may not be available at this time. You may not want to talk about it this time. You may want to talk about it, but not at this time. Okay, so when I go back and I say, look, Sam, we're going through this, we have this difference of opinion regarding this, the outcome of this crime analysis that we're doing. We clearly disagree here. I'm not feeling that this is the best solution. Are you available for us to talk about this? So actually, I'm not pointing fingers at you, Sam. Coming back and again, thank you for your great example. And this creates a big difference. It's not because there's a right way to be confrontational and there's not a right way to be confrontational. There's a right and a wrong way to do this, okay? And learning how to do it the right way obviously is important because it challenges and it changes the outcome, okay? Because what is the last outcome that we want to have here? We want to be able to have a great place to work, okay? Actually, there are prices about that, but more important on a daily basis, we want to be happy to go to the place we work. We want to be able to interact and do our job the best way we can and to share that with all our colleagues. And again, the basis is not just our technical ability. That's not an issue here. That's not a point in this presentation. It's just making sure that we raise our awareness in that there's another side, which is the relation side, which determines actually the outcome of whatever we're doing. And this applies within the team to outside the team to other law enforcement agencies, other crime analysis agencies, courts, everything. Remember that as crime analysts, we have a responsibility to do our best because the output, the outcome of what we do actually impacts other people's lives. So this should not be taken lightly, in my opinion. Sam, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. I see right now we don't have any open questions, but I'm pretty sure you will receive a lot of reactions in the near future. And also after publishing your presentation on our YouTube channel, there will be a big discussion about that and people will contact you. So thank you, Ricardo, for your absolute great presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I want to hand it over now to Norma for the final remarks.
Thank you, Sam.
Norma,
I'm just
before
thinking that Alessia was writing
Alessia.
us. So, Ricardo, if you want to
Okay.
have a look.
No, definitely. Actually, I was going to ask you if I would still have time to answer this. Alessia, again, thank you for your question. And I'm going to read your question, okay? Because I think it's a very interesting question. What if there's a situation where I feel like someone is doing something wrong, but they do not listen to me when asking a confrontation? So, your question actually has two parts. Okay, first you actually put it correctly, which is wrong. Okay, and I understand that you I wouldn't say wrong, I would say differently, because this means that you already took a very important step, which is in understanding that the way you're perceiving something is different from the other person, and in there you're already light years away from most of the people. Okay, so this is step number one, is you are aware that what you feel that person is actually doing is wrong, is not the right way, it's not doing that properly. Now you go to the next step, which is you're trying to help the other person understand that he's doing it wrong. or in a different way. I'm going to use in a different way. Okay, right and wrong leads us to the conversation in which there are so many truths as there are people talking about the same subject. Okay, different filters. But remember that in the end, you have control in the sense that you can ask questions, you can try to understand why the other person is doing it the wrong way, but you cannot impose the person, you cannot impose a different way to that person. I hope this makes sense. Okay, you can only impose. Look, when we're talking about relationships between people, you have basically two options. Either you work in a collaborative environment and you work like peers, although you may not be peers by itself, or you have power. If you have power, if you are this person's boss, you can force the person to do the way you're doing it. Okay? Now, but it might be interesting. And in the end, I think there's two things that you need to distinguish: the outcome and the way the outcome is reached. Okay? So doing it wrong might just be doing it in a different way, which if you ask questions, okay, the other person will no longer will first understand what you think about the subject, but more than that, you're trying to understand yourself why the person is doing it that way. Okay? And it's not uncommon for, out of this collaborative kind of work between both of them, to get a third way to do things, which actually is better than both of them are, as you're doing it right now and the person is doing right now. Okay, so it's very important to distinguish between the outcome and the way that you need to go to that outcome. And unless you have power over that person, you in the end cannot change. But even if you have power and even if you change, most likely what will happen is that you may go into conflict with that person. Okay, because that person will think that it was imposed, he or she has to do something in a way that it doesn't want to do. That person will basically not like to do what to do and will not like you as a person, okay, because you're imposing these things. Okay, so Alessia, I kind of and sorry Norma, I kind of extended a little bit on answering Alessia's question. If you have more questions, any of you, you have my contacts. Norma will share, as Sam has mentioned. You'll have access to this on the YouTube channel. You'll also have the presentation. It will be shared with you. You know how to reach me. You know how to reach Norma. I think you know how to reach Sam, although this may be not Sam's direct department. Feel free to reach out. Okay, we're here for those questions. Norma,
Okay, we are having one question more from Maria. But before to reply to Maria, I would like to ask a question that we usually do, and of course is thinking about our students. So you say that not everyone communicate well under pressure, but in your experience, three advice or maybe three things that for sure our students needs to do when they need to communicate something.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of preparation. Okay, so sometimes before going into a situation, I kind of role play it inside my head. Okay, sometimes I know the person on the other side. Sometimes I don't know the person on the other side. Okay, but these things come out of practice. Now, some time ago, I'm not going to say how many years. Okay, some time ago, I was exactly where you are. Okay, I knew what you know. Now I have a different kind of experience. Now I've been learning and teaching this and practicing this on a daily basis. Okay, so all the principles that I know and that I teach and then that I apply, sometimes I decide not to apply in specific situations, but I know that I'm doing that. And I know why I'm doing that, because the situation demands it from me. okay? And I can leave you a couple of tips more, okay? Remember, I would say this one tip and one experiment. I'm going to leave you with one for something for you to try, okay? The tip would be that the person who asks the questions controls the conversation. Try it. Okay, actually, I'm going to leave 2 tries for you. Okay, the next time you're with someone, not in a stressful situation, okay? Try something which is easy for you, okay? Still like first steps, okay? Listen carefully to the person and start asking questions. If you are with a person with actually has an interesting conversation, this is great. You can spend hours having this conversation because you're asking questions, the person is replying, the subject is very interesting. You can be hours around this. If the conversation is not that interesting, most of the times what happens is that I'm going to say this is kind of bad, okay? But it's like you ask one question and the person on the other side wants so much to talk that she can spend hours talking to you and you don't have to say a thing. Okay? So remember, coming back to my tip, he or she who asks the questions leads the conversation. I'm going to say leads the conversation. Okay? And I'm going to leave a suggestion, something for you to try. Start paying attention to the other people's name. Next time you go to a coffee shop, next time you meet a new teacher, next time you meet you go to a restaurant, the person which actually is talking to you, the first thing I would recommend that you do is, especially in coffee shops and restaurants, this is awesome. Okay, like look, what's your name? Oh, my name is Ricardo. And from that moment onwards, I always treat the person by her or his name. Okay? And this kind of triggers a change in the person. She'll start paying more attention to you. She'll start smiling more to you. Okay? In that specific moment. If it's a place where you return often, then most of the times the person will know your name also. And when you arrive, will immediately smile at you and will immediately tell you your name. And you will notice that the way you're being waitered is better than everyone else. So try it, okay? Try it. And let me know the outcome. Don't just
For
try it.
sure, for
Curious
sure we
about the
will.
outcome. Norma, thank you again.
Okay, so
Back to
if
you.
you want to finish with Maria, so
Maria, as a forensic, thank you for the presentation. No, thank you for your feedback. Maria, as a forensic linguistic, I found your comments on effective communication and ambiguity in interpretation really useful. Thank you all. No, thank you, Maria. Again, thank you for your feedback. Okay. I hope this conversation, which is coming to an hour, I hope this conversation really has raised your awareness on the importance of communicating effectively with other people. It's a world in itself. Okay, so you spend years learning forensic science. I spent 20 years, 30 years learning how to communicate more effectively. Let me tell you that after all this time, it's challenging. After 20 or 30 years, it's still challenging. And at the same time, interesting because it becomes not boring. Because if you really like to interact with other people, if you really like to know other people, then I hope this Meet the Expert helped raise your awareness on this, and you decide to, whatever path you choose, you decide to become better at it because it will definitely impact you positively, professionally, and personally. A pleasure. Thank you for your feedback. Norma, again, thank you for the invitation. Sam, thank you for the invitation. A pleasure being here. Thank you.
something else to add? Not Sam.
No, I'm fine. I really love the conversation also here at the end. It's great to see that people didn't leave us before the Q&A session. So this marks that people are interested in this topic. And once again, Ricardo, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. And now I give back again to Norma.
Okay, so thank you so much for everyone, for the EACA members that we know that we have some of them here. Of course, to our students, the community in the field of forensic science, criminology, criminalistics. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we hope to see you in the next Meet the Experts. Thank you so much. Bye-bye and good day for everyone.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Have a great week. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.